Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tangmen based on novel. So let's start. Shu Qianran's eyes closed into slits as cold light flickered in them. He actually came back to rescue those hostages. That means he didn't die in the Western Mountains valleys. They actually came out of that strange place alive. Commander Wang, you can get up. You were only responsible for the reinforcements. The situation was already fixed when you arrived. This matter has nothing to do with you. Yes, Your Majesty. Wang Yiheng got to his feet and stood off to one side. Shu Qianran was seething with rage at this moment, and he really wanted to kill the 3 commanders before him to vent his anger. However, his rationality allowed him to control this impulse. No matter what, these 3 commanders were top-tier soul engineers, especially Wang Yiheng, who was a Class 9 soul engineer. The Sun Moon Empire had an overwhelming number of soul engineers, but even so, Class 9 soul engineers were considered strategic existences. Wang Yiheng commanded the Evil Eye Tyrant Soul Engineer Legion, and he was one of the fingers of the hand that protects the nation. He was a titled Doluor, of course, and his title was the Mad Bull. The Mad Bull Doluor, Wang Yiheng, had quite a reputation in the world of soul engineers. The other 2 commanders were both Class 8 soul engineers, and Shu Qianran couldn't bear to kill them, no matter what had happened. However, he had to let them kneel for a little while longer. It didn't take long for the Holy Ghost Church's leader, who was also the Sun Moon Empire's imperial tutor, to arrive. He was clad in black, and Ma Xiaodao had once told Huo Yuhao that his name was Zhongwu. He was the descendant of the previous leader of the Holy Ghost Church, the same person who had disturbed and troubled the twin holy dragons of Black and White, the evil soul master, Yi Shishui. Zhongwu didn't come alone, the 3rd and 4th elders accompanied him. Ma Xiaodao had quickly vanished without a trace after she ran out hysterically yesterday, and hadn't returned since then. The elders were helpless about that, and had no choice but to return to Radiant City. They reported this to Zhongwu as soon as was possible. Zhongwu knew that Shu Qianran would definitely seek him out. Therefore, he decided to bring his 2 elders along while the 3 Zhong brothers were here. The Holy Ghost Church's leader, Zhongwu, tilted his head slightly in greeting when he saw Shu Qianran. Shu Qianran's expression warmed a little as he said, "Sit down, Imperial Tutor." Zhongwu sat down on the seat beneath Shu Qianran, and didn't wait for Shu Qianran to ask as he took the initiative. "Your Majesty, I already know about everything. This matter is too sudden, and there is something odd about it. I will allow my subordinates to explain things to you first." Zhongwu waved at several of his subordinates as he spoke. The 3rd elder and the 4th elder were the main narrators, as they began to explain the story at once. The 3 Zhong brothers added in from one side, and everyone detailed the entire process according to what they knew. Shu Qianran squinted after listening to their accounts, and said, "That means someone dispelled the poison given to those hostages. However, Imperial Tutor, I remember you mentioning to me that only you possess the antidote for the soul-eradicating powder's intense poison. Someone actually managed to create an antidote independently. Furthermore, Sunrise City's defenses were tight and strict. So how did these people sneak into the city and discover where the water prison was located? They had a meticulously detailed plan, and they even attacked Sunrise City by firing large amounts of soul tools into the city. In the end, they even destroyed the soul tools that they didn't bring away. The entire process was specifically delegated, and they carried out their rescue operation impeccably. Without discussing these people's fighting strength, how scheming they are is astonishing. Furthermore, what makes me furious is the fact that they managed to install so many soul tools within Sunrise City, including Class 8 stationary soul cannon shells, without our patrols discovering anything at all. Since that's the case, does that mean that if someone installs stationary soul cannon shells inside Radiant City, will I also possibly be blown into smithereens at any moment?" At this point, Shu Qianran's hostility, and all the murderous air that he had suppressed before this, permeated the room once more. The 2 commanders kneeling beneath him could feel sweat breaking out on their foreheads. "Calm down, Your Majesty," Zhongwu lowered his voice, continuing, "This matter has far exceeded our expectations. We are spying on and monitoring most of the powerful individuals who belong to the Doluor continent's 3 native countries. They managed to sneak into our empire and execute a rescue operation such as this, and eventually brought every single hostage away. This operation can't have been completed by 1 or 2 people, So I'm certain that they must be backed by immense wealth, labor, and material resources. Where does their manpower come from? After we received the news, we sent out another 2 beast-rank Soul Engineer legions in pursuit. According to our leads, they should be heading towards the ocean. Once they pass proper intel back to us, I will let Xiao Feng lead some of my Sect's sharpest and most elite members to cooperate with your Soul Engineer legions to pursue those perpetrators. We must catch them before they leave your country's borders. Xu Qianran nodded and said, we can only mend the fold after the sheep have been stolen. Hopefully, we can intercept them in time. Report. Your Majesty, urgent news from the border. A guard knelt down outside the hall and reported respectfully. Send it in. Xu Qianran was in a terrible mood, and everything he was afraid of happening was happening. Had something happened at the border again? A sealed letter was quickly passed into his hands. After a few moments, Xu Qianran's face turned black as he slammed his palm into a table beside him, smashing it to pieces. The border has reported that all of the powerful individuals from Shrek Academy have disappeared without a trace, and the other powerful individuals above the Soul Doluo rank from the Star Luo Empire, the Heavenly Soul Empire, the Doling Empire that we have been monitoring vanished along with them. There is no question that these people must be going to reinforce those hostages. The Holy Ghost Church's leader was quiet as he listened to Xu Qianran's words. This plan was too perfect. Its perpetrators didn't give them any chances at all. The hostages were rescued before the news of those powerful individuals disappearing came. Xu Qianran muttered angrily, who are these people who rescued the hostages? Are they inconspicuous and unassuming individuals within the world of Soul Masters? Imperial Tutor, it looks like the Holy Ghost Church really has to be reorganized and tidied up. Xu Qianran's tone wasn't too overboard, but even the Holy Ghost Church's leader, who he had always respected, was berated amidst his seething rage. Zhong Wu was equally indignant. He got to his feet and lowered his voice as he said, I will give you an explanation, Your Majesty. He turned to the 3rd elder, the 4th elder, and the 3 Zhong brothers as he spoke. The big toe of your right foot. Zhong Wu's voice was very calm, but it was also cold and eerie at the same time. Blood erupted into the air as all 5 members of the Holy Ghost Church tore off the big toes of their right feet one after another, and tossed them to the ground. Fresh blood immediately splashed all over the ground. 2 of them were titled Doluo, and 3 of them were Soul Doluo. Zhong Wu uttered but one sentence, and they had no choice but to harm themselves like that. Zhong Wu walked forward and came before the 2 Soul Engineers, who were kneeling on the ground. Your defenses have failed, and you were played by the enemy however they wished. You concentrated a lot of resources on the city, but the enemy managed to sneak in anyway. The 2 of you are responsible. The 2 Soul Engineers raised their heads subconsciously as they heard his grave and chilly voice. Their eyes were filled with fear as they subconsciously glanced at Xu Qianran. One of them blurted out, Your Majesty. Zhong Wu made his move before Xu Qianran could say anything. A pair of skeletal claws that were as black as ink sprang from nowhere and clawed into these 2 Class 8 Soul Engineers' heads. Powerful auras emerged from Zhong Wu's body, and he suppressed the 2 Soul Engineers forcefully, so that they couldn't resist him at all. These 2 Soul Engineers were 8-ringed Soul Doluo, but their soul tools had been seized before they came to see Xu Qianran. Furthermore, they were Soul Engineers, and they paled in comparison to Soul Masters of the same rank when they didn't have their soul tools. There was nothing else to say when they were confronted by a mighty evil Soul Master like Zhong Wu. The 2 Soul Engineers didn't even make a sound as they collapsed to the ground, lifeless. 2 panicky and frightened spirits were forcefully extracted from their bodies, and were compressed by black air streams coming from Zhong Wu's hands. They became 2 spheres flickering with faint white light, and eventually disappeared into thin air. Zhong Wu turned around and said to Xu Qianran, Your Majesty, the matter has already reached this stage, so we can only think of a solution as quickly as possible. We shall wait for my subordinates, who are chasing those perpetrators, to return, and will pass any news to you as soon as possible. You have to make plans at once as well, war might be inevitable at this point. Farewell. With that, he turned to leave, and the other 5 evil Soul Masters resisted the intense pain with great difficulty, as they followed Zhong Wu away. Xu Qianran's face was black, and his breathing was evidently a lot coarser and heavier than usual. His fists were clenched tightly as he stared at the 2 corpses on the ground. The mad bull Doluo, Wang Yiheng, couldn't hold himself back anymore and shouted angrily, too wanton. Your Majesty, he's too outrageous and unbridled. Those 2 Class 8 Soul Engineers weren't his subordinates, but they came from the same system, after all. The Holy Ghost Church's leader had killed them right in front of Xu Qianran, and he couldn't help but feel distressed for others of his kind. Xu Qianran grunted coldly and said, "Go and rest, Commander Wang." "Your Majesty." "Leave?" Xu Qianran's eyes widened as he yelled at Wang Yiheng, and intense hostility instantly permeated the entire hall. "Yes." Wang Yiheng forcefully suppressed the anger and fear in his heart as he bowed respectfully, before turning and leaving. Several servants immediately streamed in and carried the two corpses away. Xu Qianran said plainly, "They have died in the line of duty, and will receive a generous burial. Compensate their families generously." Juzi's emotions had calmed down at this point, and she hid her intense grief and anxiety deep within her heart. She had always been rational, and she was very clear that if Huo Yuhao didn't have other methods, or if luck wasn't on his side after he burned his own spiritual power, he was probably dead. She had always had a kind of blind confidence in Huo Yuhao, and she kept telling herself, "This fellow is so good at creating miracles. He can't possibly die so easily. He must be alive, he must be." Juzi got to her feet, walked behind Xu Qianran, and gently massaged his shoulders, which had become a little tense due to his rage. Xu Qianran's black face warmed a little when he felt the strength and warmth from Juzi's tender, small hands. He gently patted her soft hands and said, "Only you don't talk too much, you never speak more than you have to." Juzi continued to massage him as she whispered, "Take care of your body, Your Majesty. Don't let anger damage your body." Yes, she was never one to speak too much in front of Xu Qianran, because she understood how intelligent he was. He knew everything, and he would understand everything without needing her to say anything at all. Xu Qianran laughed coldly and said, "The imperial tutor is trying to give me a show of strength. Good, very good. One day. HMPH. Juzi still said nothing, and just continued massaging him gently. "Juzi, make a trip to the military and pass on my orders. I want all captains and above in Radiant City here for a meeting. I'm afraid war is really coming." "Yes." Juzi stopped massaging him and withdrew her hands. She walked around in front of him first and curtsied subtly before briskly walking away. Xu Qianran stared at Juzi's back as she disappeared. He mumbled under his breath, "The Star Luo Empire and the Heavenly Soul Empire will not let a great chance like this slip between their fingers. They will take the initiative and launch an invasion. However, the Sun Moon Empire isn't sufficiently prepared at this point. What do I do? How should I deal with this?" 7 days later, in the Sun Moon Empire's northwestern regions. 7 days. Exactly 7 days had passed, and Huo Yuhao was still sitting there with his legs crossed as Nan Shueishui and Nan Qiuqiu watched over him. 7 colored lights continued orbiting his body. Nan Qiuqiu had personally witnessed the power of those 7 colored lights. It had been raining a few days ago, and the rain came up too suddenly, so the two of them couldn't shelter Huo Yuhao in time. However, they quickly realized, to their astonishment, that the rainwater evaporated immediately once it touched that 7-colored light, and not a single trace remained. It didn't take long before Huo Yuhao became a sphere of light completely cocooned in water vapor. Huo Yuhao's face no longer showed any grief. He was just sitting there with his legs crossed, and he seemed solemn and dignified. His dark golden hair had become a lot longer over these few days, and it now almost stretched to his waist behind him. What was even stranger was that his skin had become a lot fairer than before, and he had also become a lot more good-looking. He was still Huo Yuhao, but he gave them a different feeling now. Faint golden patterns that resembled the sun appeared around the Eye of Destiny on his forehead. The patterns swam as black and white colors flickered incessantly in his Eye of Destiny. They seemed to represent life and death. Huo Yuhao's 6 soul rings, which were white, purple, black, and rose gold, sparkled alternately on his body. His soul power undulations were being strengthened every day over these last 7 days. Every last trace of Wang Qiu'er had disappeared. Heaven and earth had returned to normal after the 7-colored light descended from the sky on the first day, but nobody knew how long this process would take. "Mom, what rank do you think his soul power will be when he wakes up?" Nan Qiuqiu whispered to her mother. Nan Shueishui shook her head and said, "I'm not sure. The 7-colored dome of light around him is too tightly sealed, and it has sealed his aura, so I can't feel anything from him at all. However, I am sure that he won't simply be rank 60. I'm more curious about his rose gold soul ring, because this is the first time that I've seen a soul ring of that color." Nan Qiuqiu said, there are too many strange things about him. His other martial soul has an orange gold soul ring. He's a soul emperor. When can I become a soul emperor? Wang Qiuer passed away for some unknown reason, and she bestowed some abilities to him, but why has another soul ring appeared on his body? Wang Qiuer wasn't a soul beast. Nan Shueishue's eyes suddenly stared straight at her daughter, and Nan Qiuqiu felt a little uncomfortable and unsettled underneath her gaze. Why are you looking at me like that, Mum? Nan Shueishue's voice sounded a little strange. My daughter, I think you may have unintentionally guessed the right answer. What if Wang Qiuer was actually a soul beast? Wouldn't that explain everything? She was a soul beast. How is that possible? Nan Qiuqiu was in disbelief. Soul beasts can take human form. They need to have at least 100,000 years of cultivation, and they also have to give up their own cultivation for that to happen, right? Nan Shueishue continued, Wang Qiuer was likely in that situation. Soul beasts can take human form if they have more than 200,000 years of cultivation after they break through their bottleneck, but otherwise, they have to choose rebirth. Out of 100,000-year soul beasts, not even one will make it to 200,000 years, and choosing rebirth is very likely when they are not confident in breaking through the 200,000-year bottleneck. But the prerequisite is that they cannot be discovered by their own kind, and they also can't be discovered by humans. Otherwise, they may die very easily. For soul masters, meeting such a 100,000-year soul beast who has chosen rebirth is considered the luckiest circumstance. Soul masters can obtain a soul ring and a soul bone from killing these soul beasts, and the process will be a lot easier than otherwise. Nan Qiuqiu was momentarily stunned. Then Wang Qiuer and Huo Yuhao. Nan Shueishue heaved a faint sigh and said, I don't know about them. The truth is, many soul beasts don't survive after they chose rebirth, because they are too pure and naive. The world of humans is far too dirty and wretched in comparison to their past. Therefore, soul beasts are very likely to be exposed after they take human form, and you already know what will happen to them once they are exposed. Nan Qiuqiu nodded gently and said, soul beasts are quite pitiful. Now I am starting to feel that Yuhao's research on those spirits is very necessary. Otherwise, at the rate that humans are increasing in number, soul beasts will go extinct sooner or later. If soul beasts go extinct, then there won't be soul masters anymore. Nan Shueishue glanced at her daughter in surprise. It seems you've learned quite a bit in the time that you've spent with the Tang sect. What are spirits? Nan Qiuqiu put on a serious look and said righteously, this is top secret information that belongs to the Tang sect and Shrek Academy. You belong to the Earth Dragon sect's inner circle, so you shouldn't be probing about this. Silly girl. Nan Shueishue smiled for the first time since she had been rescued as she raised her hand and pinched her daughter's cheek. Nan Qiuqiu dodged a few steps away, but her eyes were still fixed on Huo Yuhao. Hi, I wonder when he'll wake up. Mum, we owe him such a huge favor for this, what should we do? Nan Shueishue said plainly, his girlfriend died because of this, so you can marry him. My daughter isn't that ugly, so I'll let him take this unfair advantage. Nan Qiuqiu blushed and snapped at her mother, what advantage? Are you overly eager to sell me away? Even if you want to sell your daughter, he must be willing to have me. Qiuer is so beautiful, but he didn't want to have her for the longest time before today. He likes Donga, who is still in a deep slumber, so there's no business for me there. Sister Gai knows that this endeavor is too difficult, and she's backed away. I won't think about such impossible things. You should think of other solutions. Nan Shueishue thought for a moment, then squinted. Qiuqiu, what do you think about the Earth Dragon sect merging with the Tang sect? Ah? Nan Qiuqiu was astounded. Are you for real, Mum? You're talking about our ancestors' foundations and establishments. No matter what, the Earth Dragon sect has been around for several centuries. Are you not afraid of meeting your ancestors in another world after you die, and having them beat you until your buttocks explode? Nan Shueishue's face twitched. Why can't you wish me good fortune instead? You're cursing me to die for no reason. Are you even my daughter? Nan Qiuqiu was a little sheepish as she replied, I'm saying all this for your own good. Nan Shueishue grunted and said, I'm not that stupid. What I mean by merging is not a complete integration. I think the Earth Dragon sect and the Tang sect can join forces and work closely with one another. The Tang sect hasn't been established for long, right? Even though they are growing rapidly and becoming stronger, their foundations aren't stable. I intend to create a branch of the Earth Dragon Sect to be left in Shrek Academy, and I will send our most elite members there. You will be in charge of this branch, and you will work together with the Tang Sect. Afterwards, we will purchase some soul tools from the Tang Sect. What do you think? Nan Qiuqiu thought for a moment, then said, that's a feasible solution. However, even if that happens, I don't think our cooperation with the Tang Sect can be considered close and intimate, because we're not really helping them. You don't know this, but the Tang Sect's soul tools are very popular and in demand at the moment. Their supply can't even meet all that demand, and nobody knows when our turn will come to purchase their soul tools. Nan Shueishui looked her daughter up and down and said, are you not trying to give yourself to him? You haven't given him your body, but your heart is with him, no? Are you thinking about the Earth Dragon Sect from the perspective of a future heir? Nan Qiuqiu stretched her neck and said, I'm just judging the matter as it stands. The Tang Sect has Shrek Academy supporting them, so why would they work closely with us unless the arrangement is sufficiently beneficial for them? Your daughter isn't worth this price, and the Tang Sect has so many more prodigious and talented individuals than we do. Nan Shueishui's mouth twitched, and she replied, all right. Don't I know you? You are at the Tang Sect, and even your heart is at the Tang Sect. You've already forgotten where your home is. Don't worry, I'm not that stupid. Since I'm branching out over there and sending our elite youths over, we aren't just maintaining our relationship with the Tang Sect, we also need the Tang Sect and Shrek Academy to train and nurture our elite youths. This is the Earth Dragon Sect's future direction for development, and only then can we obtain sufficient benefits, so that the Earth Dragon Sect can become stronger. Nan Qiuqiu widened her eyes and said, Mum, do you have a fever? We are the ones who owe him a big favor, not the other way around. Why do I feel like you're... Nan Shueishui cut her off and said, let me finish. Everything I've just mentioned has a big prerequisite, and this prerequisite is profit and benefit. We can only survive for a long time if we combine feelings and benefits. We owe the Tang Sect such a huge favor, and we definitely have to repay them for this favor. The Earth Dragon Sect has always kept a deep secret, and we only have to share this secret with the Tang Sect. Everything I've said will naturally be successful when the conditions are right. With our understanding of the Tang Sect and Shrek Academy at the moment, we're not afraid of them swallowing this secret by themselves. Deep secret? Why don't I know about this? Nan Qiuqiu stared at her mother with a curious look on her face. Nan Shueishui snapped, nonsense. Since it's a secret, how can we let so many people know about it? Only the sect leaders of every generation are worthy of knowing this secret. Nan Qiuqiu scampered over to Nan Shueishui's side and hugged her arm. Mum, I'm also the future sect leader of the Earth Dragon Sect, and you only have one daughter. I'm sure everything will be all right if you tell me the secret. Don't worry, I won't tell any outsiders. Tell me, quickly. You know very well that I'm a very curious person. Nan Shueishui glanced at her and said, You've never been able to keep secrets. Telling you is equivalent to telling the entire continent. Forget it. When Huo Yuhao wakes up, I'll follow all of you to the Tang Sect if he's fine. This is a top secret of our sect, and we can only share it with the sect leader of the Tang Sect. Nan Qiuqiu twisted her lips and seemed very displeased. At this moment, a strong wave of soul power caught their attention, and they both turned towards Huo Yuhao at the same time. The light from the seven-colored barrier slowly weakened, and the huge vertical eye behind Huo Yuhao that had disappeared resurfaced again. The sunray patterns around the Eye of Destiny on his forehead became weaker, and his Eye of Destiny, which was shining with intersecting black and white lights, suddenly revealed a gentle charm. A gentle rose-gold color subtly appeared in this vertical eye. The black and white lights intersected before retracting, turning into a pupil. Even though they only took one glance at it, Nan Shueishui and Nan Qiuqiu felt like their spirits had been pulled out of their bodies. Nan Shueishui's reaction was extremely fast. She quickly lifted her hands and covered her and her daughter's eyes. The weakening seven-colored barrier suddenly became stronger, just as it looked like it was going to disappear. Following this, it turned into a seven-colored beam that shot into the sky. Suddenly, a pleasant voice echoed in the air. The visible sky had turned completely golden at this moment. The earth was set off by the sky, and turned golden too. Huo Yuhao's body seemed as if it were made of pure gold, and his Eye of Destiny turned back to black and white. It was as if death and life took turns flashing in his eye. The transformations in the sky didn't last too long. Suddenly, the golden sky seemed to turn into clouds, which rapidly spun around. The golden light retracted, and changed into a huge golden funnel. It started to gather towards Huo Yuhao's head, which formed the center. The golden light disappeared, and Huo Yuhao's vertical eye returned to its rose gold color, while heaven and earth turned black and white. It was a very strange process. Even Nan Shueishui, who was a soul doluo and wielded the annihilation element, felt like she was being strangled, and couldn't breathe. During this short process, she became even more determined to work closely with the Tang Sect. She saw the Tang Sect's unlimited potential in the future through the strange occurrences that kept happening to Huo Yuhao. Suddenly, a ball of golden light appeared above Huo Yuhao's head and charged towards the sky. A black slit was torn open in the air, and the golden light quickly entered this slit. As the slit closed up, the golden light disappeared. Nan Shueishui and Nan Qiuqiu only roughly saw that the golden light was in the shape of a small beast. On a mountain peak that extended all the way to the clouds, a towering ancient castle. In a quiet room, a ravishing beauty lay quietly and peacefully on a bed. She was beautiful and quiet. Her white dress accentuated her powder blue straight hair, making it seem even more dazzling and eye-catching. Her fingers were crossed, both her hands on her chest. No matter what angle one looked at her from, she seemed perfect. It was a pity that she was too quiet. If not for the slight rise and fall of her chest, she would seem like the perfect sculpture. Suddenly, everything in the room started to distort slightly. It felt as if a scorching flame had just swept past, and the air started to ripple. A black slit appeared as ripples formed in the air. Following this, a streak of golden light drifted down and gradually landed on this young lady's chest, before slowly fusing with it. Suddenly, there was an additional golden halo around her. Her powder blue long hair started to light up with a glow of the same color, resonating with the streak of golden light on her chest. That streak of golden light slowly took form and turned into a long, golden staff, or rather a long, golden handle, drifting in the air. An image of a golden trident also surfaced on her forehead. That golden trident started to shine brightly, and changed into a streak of golden light drifting up. This streak of golden light turned into the head of a trident and slowly linked up with the golden handle in the air. When the handle and the head of the trident connected, the entire room turned golden. Amid the intense golden light, a blue butterfly subtly opened up its wings. A golden dragon slowly revolved around it. The young lady was still sleeping very soundly. The outside world didn't seem to affect her at all. However, her straight hair started to slowly curl and formed wavy shapes. Heaven and earth slowly regained the color they had lost, as if a sketch was being painted with colors. Huo Yuhao's strange, yet terrifying vertical eye also slowly shut, and his forehead was smooth again. Huo Yuhao slowly opened his eyes again. His eyes appeared shinier and more ethereal. Chioa. 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 As he called 3 times, he also seemed to jolt himself awake. 2 streams of tears flowed down from his bright eyes. Nan Shueishui and Nan Qiuqiu were astonished that his tears glowed a faint gold. They shone brightly under the illumination of the sunlight. A spiritual intent filled with sorrow started to spread from him. Nan Qiuqiu's tears also started to flow uncontrollably after a momentary daze, as she was affected by this spiritual intent of his. Nan Shueishui's expression changed in astonishment. The intent that he reveals unwittingly can even influence people around him. Qiuqiu is almost at the level of a soul emperor. However, she can't even resist it. His spiritual power must be very great. Nan Shueishui was certain that Huo Yuhao's spiritual power was greater than hers. Even if he had just obtained his 6th soul ring, he should still only be a soul emperor. However, he was able to leave her so terrified, even though she was a soul doluo. This was something unheard of in the world of soul masters. She didn't even see what Huo Yuhao did. He just drifted gently to the ground. When he looked over, the tears in his eyes suddenly changed into countless ice flowers that scattered away. An icy light flashed across his eyes before it disappeared. Holy Ghost. Church. He seemed to shout these 3 words from between his teeth. His earlier aloofness instantly turned into a terrifying chill. Even Nan Shueishui turned pale from the suppression that he produced, and took a step back. Nan Qiuqiu was in a worse state. Her body shook, and she fell to the ground on her butt. This? Using purely spiritual power to judge this, Nan Shueishui was stunned to realize that none of the titled Doluo she knew were as dominating as Huo Yuhao. She could confirm now that Huo Yuhao's abilities couldn't be judged through his soul power. His terrifying spiritual power had already enhanced him to a higher level, and it wasn't just one level. As for how strong he was, that could only be determined by facing him directly. Huo Yuhao's expression was very cold as he looked in the direction of Radiant City. However, his eyes were still filled with torment. Chioa. How can I repay you for everything you've done for me? Huo Yuhao stopped crying. When sorrow reached a certain level, tears were unable to flow anymore. After a brief moment, the chill that he released from his body gradually faded away. However, his face turned stiff, and he no longer had any expression on his face. He turned back calmly and looked at Nan Shueishui and Nan Qiuqiu. Thank you for protecting me. I'm fine. Nan Shueishui had already lifted her daughter up at this moment. She opened her mouth and wanted to claim that Huo Yuhao was definitely not fine. However, she didn't say it. No, she didn't dare to do so. The icy-cold look in Huo Yuhao's eyes and his indifferent expression caused her to shudder. She was more willing to see a bawling Huo Yuhao than she was to see him in this state. There was nothing sadder than a withered heart. Wang Donga was asleep, and Wang Qiuqiu had sacrificed herself for him. After being dealt 2 heavy blows, Huo Yuhao was already strong if he had not gone. However, he was already at his limit. If he was dealt any further blows, would he collapse? Nan Shueishui was a sect leader. Although she sighed in her heart, she wasn't as weak as her daughter. She walked in front of Huo Yuhao and didn't discuss anything related to Wang Qiuqiu. She only asked, Yuhao, where are we going next? Huo Yuhao seemed to have a plan in mind and said, Sect leader Nan, you can return with Qiuqiu first. I need to go to a place first before I return to the Tang sect. Nan Shueishui said, no words can express my gratitude. I also have a few things to discuss with your sect leader. You can get busy with your stuff first. I'll send Qiuqiu back to the Tang sect, and let's meet at the Tang sect later. Huo Yuhao nodded. All right. I'll need to trouble you to tell my eldest senior that I'm fine, and that I'll return soon. After this, tell him that Qiuqiu was the auspicious beast in the Great Star Do Forest, and she sacrificed herself for me. I'm afraid that the soul beasts in the forest will take revenge. The academy must take precautions. After I complete one more task, I'll return. Nan Shueishui wore a gentle look as she looked at him and said gently, Kid, don't be too hard on yourself. You must always look forward. Let's go to the Tang sect immediately. Take the words that you said back. Huo Yuhao was in a daze as he looked at Nan Shueishui's gentle gaze. He suddenly felt that he had seen his mother's face. Instantly, he was about to tear up, and struggled to stop himself from calling out for his mother. He nodded gently and pointed his toes to the ground before turning around and leaping away. He used his butterfly wings as he flew into the distance rapidly. Nan Qiuqiu walked a few steps to her mother's side. Mom, can't I follow him? His current condition. This video will end here.